Hi, welcome to the Mentored Engineer. Today we're going to be continuing our study of MathCAD. Last week we talked about the basics, including setting up toolbars, specifying variables, setting up text fields, and how it calculates the units. Today we're going to be talking about solving simultaneous equations and how to use matrices. Alright, MathCAD is phenomenal at using simultaneous equations. It allows you to do a variety of different types of simultaneous equations, as well as carry units through the equations, and then get the results out in a couple different fashions, and we're going to explore that right now. So let's start off with an easy example. So let's see how we solve simultaneous equations. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to specify our values of variables. And we're just putting in a generic value. I always put 1 for some reason, just it's easy, and whenever I see it I know, hey, I'm going to solve simultaneous equation. So here we're going to put in the super secret word that opens the solve block, which is given. Alright, make sure you don't put a space after it and make it a text block. Alright, so here I'm going to put A plus B, and I'm going to use the third equal sign here, which is the Boolean Equals, and it's a dark heavy equal sign, and I'm just going to say it's equal to 0. Alright, and then I'm going to put in a second equation, and I'll just say 2a plus, or let's do minus b, and then the Boolean equals again, equals 12. Alright, so I'm going to say find to get our variables out. Oops. Let's try that again. Alright, so I get 4 and negative 4. Alright. Well, that's all well and good, but how do I get those variables back to being A and B? Alright, well, let's try it a different way. Let's say results equals the find A comma B. Alright, and let's look, what do results equal? Alright, well now we got them stacked, but we can get to them again. Alright, so here we're going to talk about our first thing with matrices, and that's the open bracket command, and that's the little bracket that looks like this. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to say A equals results, oops, and then open bracket and 1, and then we're going to specify B equals the results open bracket 2. That's interesting. Look, I got a red number 2 right there, and that's because MathCAD looks at this as a computer would. So the first result is 0, and then the next one would be 1, and then 2. Well, as you can see, our results only have 2 things, so that'd be item 0 and item 1, and we have to adjust that. So what we're going to go into is math and then options, and the first thing where it says array origin here, we're just going to change that from 0 to 1, and look, all the errors go away, and then we can say A equals and B equals, and we get the same results we had up there. Alright, so there's an easy way to do this, and it does not require doing any of that math. So I'm going to start transitioning over to matrices here. I'm going to insert a matrix, alright, and I want it to be 2 rows tall and 1 rows wide, or 1 column wide. And I'm going to put A, I'm going to tab over and hit B, and I'm going to say they're equal to results, I'm sorry, they're equal to find A comma B. Alright, so here I can just specify, hey, there's A, and there's B, and I got them right away. They're very easy to do. Alright, now let's say something else. Let's say we're doing this with units. We don't want to change to unitlessness. So what we're going to do is behind this, we're going to put our units, right? And we can't add or subtract pounds force minus something that's not pounds force, so definitely we need to be consistent with our units. So both of those have pounds force, and we'll go ahead and change this here, pounds force and pounds force. Okay, now you notice here that this is still red, and the answers we have out are the same numbers we have there. So that should throw up red flags. If you ever get the exact same number out, probably not doing something right. And I'll tell you, it took a lot of time for me to figure this next part out. I would ununitize all of my equations and then solve them and then reunitize them. And it finally dawned on me, hey, this 0 right here doesn't have units. So let's put pounds force behind each of these. And look at that. It translates it here. Now this A is below that, so that's why it's giving us a false answer. So I just dragged it down and it changed itself. So wonderful. So hey, we can have units in there and they work great. Let's talk a little bit more about matrices here. Let's insert a 2x2 matrix here. Where'd that go? Let's try it again. 2x2. All right. And let's just type in some numbers here. All right. And let's just say here I want to use another function and inverse this. And then I can hit the equal sign, and look, it inversed the whole thing for me. It did all the determinant and the cross multiplication and everything else. If we wanted to make this a bigger matrix, we could. We can solve a lot of equations this way. I personally don't do it. I don't like it. It has to be in a very specific format, where the simultaneous solver does not have to be in that format. So the simultaneous solver is a lot quicker for me. I can readily see where all my coefficients are coming from and everything like this, where this would be a little bit more harder to see. But I could do it. So going on there, you can see there's a whole bunch of different functions I can do in the matrix box. All right, so the last thing I want to show you is a time saver for me. So I want to make a variable called data, and I want that data to be a matrix. So I want something here with 3 rows and 2 columns, and I'm going to say, hey, we're making some sort of crane. It's picking something up, and we've got different angles that it can be at, and let's say it extends in and out. All right, so I'm going to specify a column of angles. In this case, I'm going to say 85, and then an extension, let's say 100 inches. All right, and then I've got another case where I've got 30 degrees, and it's at 120 inches, and then 0 degrees, and it's at 130 inches. All right, so we've got all this data of different cases we use. All right, let's also define a variable case, and right now we'll say that's equal to 2. All right. So what I want to do is get data out of this matrix here and have it in a usable form so I can switch between cases very quickly. All right. So I'm going to say my angle is equal to, and I'm going to put in the variable data. We use my open bracket again, and I'm going to put, it's going to do the row first and then the column second. So I'm going to say I'm interested in that 30-degree angle, and I want to get that value out. All right, so here, angle equals 30 degrees. All right, and then I'm going to have another value for extension, and that's going to be open bracket again, 2 and 2, and 120 inches. So that sped up everything pretty quick. All right, last thing I want to do is let's add some units to this. And I'm going to multiply it by degrees. Now it changes to radians, and then we can convert it back to degrees. All right. And here I specified earlier that these were in inches. Oops. Always make sure that you are multiplying by the right thing. So I typed in inches there, and now it's got 10 feet. I'm going to convert that back to inches. All right, but let's say I want to switch from case 2 to case 1. Let's just have this case in here and replace these 2's. So I'm going to put case in there. All right. Let me pull these over. All right, so case here shows me a whole bunch of things. So I can now go to case 2, and man, I switched through these things really quick. So let's say I had, just pages and pages of calculations after this that were done on each case, and I could switch between the cases and find out, what's my weakest link pretty quickly just by scrolling through the document. So that's a giant time saver in there. The last thing I want to show you real quick and easy is if I want to align things, I can just drag over to and hit this button here. If I want to align them vertically, come over here, click that. Well, I thank you for joining me today, and I hope this was valuable to you, and I hope to see you again in the future. Thank you for watching The Mentored Engineer.